Shifting our focus to the other war now. Russia has sent out a harsh warning to the West. President Putin has said that if Ukraine strikes deep into Russia, the West will have to face serious consequences. Listen to it yourself.
The representatives of countries that are NATO members, particularly in Europe, particularly in small countries, should be aware of what they're playing with. They should remember that these are primarily countries with small territory and dense population. And this factor they should take into account before they speak about strikes deep into the Russian territory.
The warning is loud and clear. Putin has threatened a global conflict. Pay attention to the words that he's used. NATO countries with small territory and dense population should think twice before speaking of strikes on Russia. Without taking any names, the Russian president has hit out at France and Germany. This comes in response to what the NATO Secretary General said earlier in the week. Listen to this.
My message is that I think we should now consider those restrictions, because by having too many restrictions, we are tying one hand of the Ukrainian armed forces on their back, because they're reducing their capability to defend themselves, especially in light of the nature of the fighting now taking place in the Kharkiv region, where the Russians can be protected by the national border, which is more or less the same as the front line.
Let me give you some context here. If you've been following the Ukraine war, you would know the restrictions the United States has put on Ukraine's use of its arms. Since the very beginning, American shipments of sophisticated weapons arrived into Ukraine. US President Joe Biden asked Zelensky to never fire them inside Russian territory and to only use them for its counteroffensive. Stoltenberg was referring to these restrictions. By saying that, he's implied that maybe the time has come for Ukraine to start using the Western arms to launch attacks inside Russia. If that wasn't enough to irk Russia, his statement was further supported by the French and German leaders. Listen to what they said.
We think that we should allow them to neutralize military sites from which the missiles are fired. The missiles and basically the military sites from which Ukraine is attacked. But we must not allow them to hit other targets in Russia, obviously civilian capabilities or other military targets.
Ukraine has every possibility under international law for what it is doing. That has to be said explicitly. It was attacked and may defend itself. I find it strange when some people argue that it should not be allowed to defend itself and take measures that are suitable for this.
Now, these statements have angered Putin. In response, he has said that it does not matter if Ukraine is pulling the trigger. The responsibility lies with those who are supplying these arms. And not only arms, but also troops. Putin claims that Western military instructors are already in Ukraine operating undercover as mercenaries. But any move by any country to send soldiers officially would be seen as an escalation and a step towards a serious conflict in Europe, leading to a global conflict. Those were the words he used. The Biden administration feared just this. That's why it imposed restrictions on Ukraine in the very first place. And it still maintains its stance. Listen to this.
We're aware of the interest that President Zelensky has expressed in this regard. I would tell you that there's no change to our policy at this point. We don't encourage or enable the use of U.S.-supplied weapons to strike inside Russia. I would note that the Ukrainians have, in the past, defeated imminent air attacks, such as some of the ones that have occurred in the last few days on their own since the war began.
Well, the Kremlin did not hesitate there. Putin's press secretary Dmitry Peskov mocked the divide in the West. He told Russian media that there is no consensus among the allies on this issue. The United States stays firm on its red line. However, other NATO members, as well as NATO chief, are encouraging Ukraine to attack Russian mainland. Kyiv has done that in the past. It has sent drones to Moscow, attacked oil refineries. It has been using long-range American missiles. So what are the restrictions really about? For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.